Yes, we're live right now. This is another episode of the Performance Tools LinkedIn Live with Adedoyin. Thank you so much, listeners. Anywhere you are, please go ahead and indicate where you're watching from. Let's know where you're watching from. Then also, please try and tag someone, share within your network, so that other people can benefit from this idea. Awesome! Thank you so much, Dr. Ruth Gotian. I'm excited to have you on the
Me
show today.
too.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I am so excited. We are bridging our worlds. I am coming to you from New York, and I am so excited to see and hear and read where everyone is watching from. Definitely put it in the chat. I definitely want to know where you're from.
Exactly. Yeah, please, anywhere you're watching from, let's know. Just go to the chat button, indicate where you're watching. I know that some people are watching from Facebook, while some are on YouTube, also here on LinkedIn. I'm actually streaming on LinkedIn here. So wherever you are, just indicate, let's know where you're watching from. So Dr. Gothian, thank you so much. And congratulations on your the recent book, The Success Factor. I can see that you're awesome. I mean, I must say that. I mean, like I said, I have my uh, e-reader edition. That's what I've been consuming in the last few weeks, and I must say that there's a bit of a radical departure from what we used to know, because for me personally, I've been studying the concept around success, peak performance, for the past few years. But when I came across your book, I said, let me see this new book. I mean, what's she going to talk about
Let's see
that
what the buzz is about.
around around success? Yeah, so I've read several books. I've read the book by what's it called, The Outlier by
Mhm.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
Then also I've researched a lot around the work of Professor Anderson around becoming an expert and all of that. But yours is quite a different approach. But before
Yeah.
we come to that, let's just do a little bit of introduction. I know you will do it better, but let me just talk a little bit around about you. Then you'll take it up from there. Yeah, Dr. Ruth Gotian is a leadership coach, a keynote speaker. She's an educator and a social scientist. I'm also a social scientist as well. Who researches the most successful people in the world in order to learn about their mindsets and practices. She serves as the chief learning officer and assistant professor of education in anesthesiology at Weill Cornell Medicine in New York City. She's the 2021 recipient of the Thinkers Radar Award, making her the world's number one emerging management thinker in the world. Awesome, Dr. Ruth. Awesome. Awesome. She's a valuable new voice in the debate about what constitutes success and how to achieve it. I mean, she's someone I hold in high esteem. Dr. Ruth, thank you so much for honoring my invitation.
Thank you so much for having me. And, one of the blessings of the pandemic, I had to look for silver linings because there was just so much devastation and so much loss. But
Hmm.
one of the silver linings for me was to be able to connect with people from all over the world.
The
And
world.
here I
Hmm.
am in New York, and there you are in Nigeria, and people are watching from all over the world. And we are having a conversation about my favorite topic of success, and not just
Success.
success, but extreme success.
Success.
So I'm
Hmm.
ready to geek out.
Same here. Same here. Same here. I mean, just yesterday I was reading one of my other heroes is Ram Charan. I don't know if you know Ram.
Sure. Well, I don't
Yes.
know him personally.
Oh, okay. Apparently, Ram was a guest here a couple of months ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yes. So he posted something, and that really resonated with me. He's trying to share his experience, how his family shoe business actually shaped uh, who I mean, he became as a business thinker and an advisor. I mean, he said he learned the basics of business from that his family run shoe shop. But he said something that I mean left me quite I mean very interesting thing, which he said that our lives are a summation of our experiences, and that every experience we have ever been through impact us. So maybe you can start our conversation around that, Dr. Ruth. Can you please tell us about one or two life experiences that most shaped who you are today and what you do, basically? Yeah,
Yes, it's
let's start from there.
yes, I absolutely will tell you, but I also want to answer. There was a question in the chat about where to get the book, The Success Factor.
Oh, great, great. You
Wherever
know, I
you
said
love
it.
buying books, it's there. And if you want to know all over the world, you could just go to my website, ruthgotian.com/book. So it's ruthgotian.com/book. And there will be links for all over the world where you can get the book. There's also a bonus there for how to start conversations with strangers. So go check that out. So my experiences, I have always been obsessed with success. I have been working around high achievers. I actually ran what's called an MD PhD program. So my students got the dual degree. They got both the MD degree and the PhD degree simultaneously. The program has a 3.5% acceptance rate. This is really the creme de la creme. But even amongst this group, this really prestigious group, there were those who would rise to the top. And everyone was really focused on those who are leaving, very similar to the Great Resignation we have now. Why would someone train for so long, study for so long, and then leave the profession? And we had conferences about that. We had books about that, articles about that. You name it, we talked about it. And the needle didn't really move. I was more interested in the other end of the spectrum, those whose work was so incredible. And I said, how can we get more of those people? How can we prepare and train more of those people? How can we find those people? Because I figured that if we could do that, their work would more than make up for anybody who was leaving. And I was onto something because I later found out that the high achievers, those at the top, produce 400% more than an average person. So at the age of 43, while working full time and raising my family, I went back to school and got my doctorate, and I studied success, and I have not been stopping since. So I studied Nobel Prize winners and astronauts and Olympic champions and CEOs and senior government officials in order to learn how they got to that level, because I figured if I could figure that out, I can then reverse engineer the process and create a blueprint. And that's really what I did with the Success Factor is I spoke to all of these people. I figured out the 4 elements that all of them have in common. So the astronaut is just like the Olympian. And if that's the case, that told me that these are learned skills. So as I said, I reverse engineered the process of how they became successful, found the common core elements, and then I teach it to people around the world and through the book and keynotes.
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. Very fantastic. So you started studying successful people. Maybe before we, I mean, so let me try and the topic for today is success factors. lessons from high achievers. I mean, so that people can see that. And also wherever I mean, Olusoji, okay, please let's know where you're watching from. Yes, Olusoji, let's oh, okay, great. I mean, anywhere you are, just please indicate so that we know where you're watching from. So back to my question. You said that you studied with successful people, and also try to reverse engineer so that there's a blueprint as to, I mean, for other people who want to learn the skills of being a successful individual. But there's a myth and misconceptions around success.
Mm.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
there's a myth and misconceptions around success. I mean, vague picture uh, we have over there of what it means to be successful.
Yeah.
So let's take it from there, Dr. Gotian. Uh, how do you want to define success? What is success and what does it look like, basically? Let's start from there.
That is the most critical question. And, when I started my research, I realized that we don't have a uniform definition of success. We all
Hmm,
have different definitions. And we realize that it's actually also a moving target. So, how can
hmm,
I reach out and try and attempt to achieve something if I can't even define it?
hmm,
So, it was very important for me to try to define success at the beginning. So
hmm.
what I did was the first part of my research was actually to try to define success.
Define success.
And
Hmm,
I did that. And really what I came through, I interviewed people and there were surveys. It was a whole scientific study. And what I
hmm,
realized was that these are people, the way I define success, and it's a definition I use for the book, and it's the definition I now use in life. These are
hmm,
people who have moved the needle forward in the way we do things, think about things, process things. They have created a paradigm shift in the way we are doing all of these things, right? Our lives
hmm,
are changed because of their ideas, their thoughts, their achievements. That's number one. They are
hmm,
recognized for their work in some way. It doesn't have to be the Nobel Prize. I interviewed Dr. Tony Fauci, who's leading all of the COVID efforts here in the United States. He doesn't have a Nobel Prize,
hmm.
but you can say that he's achieved a lot of great things.
Exactly.
So it's people who are recognized for their work, created a paradigm shift in the way we do things. As they moved up, they brought other people up with them. So it was
Hmm,
not just all about them. It was
hmm,
as they were going up, they were pulling other people up with them. And
hmm,
then when they reached their success, they paid it forward. And they would pay
hmm,
it forward by either running programs or mentoring people one on one. There are different
hmm,
ways that you can pay it forward, right?
hmm,
So that was really my definition of success. It's what I used in the book, The Success Factor, and it's definitely what I use in life now as
hmm,
well.
hmm, hmm. It's a moving target. Hmm. It's a
Yeah.
moving target. Yeah, that's a great one. So, if I may ask, is success for everyone? Let is success for everyone?
So I believe yes. I believe it's yes for anybody who wants it. And I think our friends here from Atlanta, Georgia, and Lagos, Nigeria, I think they all definitely want it. But because I don't really believe that
Hmm.
people wake up in the morning aiming to be average, right?
Hmm.
I see Elaine here from New Jersey as well. I'm sure
Yeah,
she'll agree.
Elaine.
Nobody
Hmm.
wakes up in the morning aiming to be average. I think people want to achieve something. The problem
Hmm.
is we don't know how to do it. And we read all these books and we watch all these videos and they say, wake up at 5 a.m., read 8 hours a
Hmm.
day. Well,
Hmm.
that's not, those are habits. We can't
Hmm.
copy other people's habits because our lives are different, right?
Hmm.
If they say all high achievers wake up at 5 a.m., but if you're a night owl and you don't go to sleep until 3 a.m., then how are you going to wake
Hmm.
up at 5 a.m.? It just doesn't
Hmm.
make any sense. So it's
Hmm.
not about copying other people's habits, what I try to do is distill their mindsets, because mindsets we can emulate, and we can definitely figure out the mindsets, how to incorporate that in our own lives. And to take that a step forward, how can we incorporate those mindsets when we have transitions in our lives which cause things to shift? A new partner, a new job, a move, a pandemic, right? These are all things that cause this upheaval in our lives, which means we need to shift the way we do things sometimes, right? If I love to read and all of a sudden I have a newborn baby, I'm not going to have the time to read all those hours.
Yes,
Right. But
absolutely.
there are mindsets that we can emulate. And, as we talk about the 4 elements of success, you'll see it's not about the 5 a.m. or the reading 8 hours a day. That's important.
It's not about doing more.
No. And hello to our friends from Qatar as well.
Yes, Obafemi from Qatar, thank you. I mean, maybe we should just let's get to see some of our people out there. And also, please, if you have your questions, just type in your questions. Let's see how Dr. Gotian can help answer some of your questions around success that you have. Obafemi from Qatar, thank you so much for joining this conversation today. Oluwa Kemi, thank you so much. We must compare our lives with other people. Okay. Olusoje Adesonya, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Olayinka Ulutola, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so Dr. Gotian, I will ask my I mean, I heard this for the first time from you, that success is a learnable skill.
That's right. That's right. If I
So
could
you are
teach you
going
how
to
to read, I could teach you
so
how
you
to
are
be
going to teach
successful.
this as a course. That's what it means.
That's right. I should teach it as a course.
Let's look at those philosophies or the mindset around those people that you have studied. I mean, who serve as your case studies? What are those mindsets? What are those mindset? What are those skills? What are those philosophies? What are the things these successful people, people like Tony Fauci, Neil Katyal, Michael Batman, these are great people. The astronauts, the Nobel laureate that you studied, the Olympic champions that you studied. What are the mindset and those skills that they've built over the years? Would you like to share those skills and mindset with us?
Yes, absolutely. And this is what was so interesting. When I reached out and I interviewed over 100 of them, of these extreme high achievers, the astronauts, the Nobel Prize winners, the Olympic champions. I was very clear with them. I said, I am not interested in your medals. I'm not interested in what I can Google about you, because I wouldn't need to have this conversation. I am much more interested in what it took to get there, in that journey. And what are the things that I can find through that journey that maybe if I do this right, there might be the same things that keep popping up. And sure enough, there were 4 elements that kept coming up in the astronauts, in the Olympians, the Paralympians, the CEOs, the Nobel Prize winners, all of that. So what are the 4 things?
You said 4 elements.
4. Yes.
Oh, let's have those 4 elements, Dr.
Okay.
Gotian.
So the first element of success is these are the people who have tapped into what we call in adult learning intrinsic motivation. It comes from within. It's their fire in their belly. It's not just their passion, it's their calling. It's why they were put on this earth. This is very different from extrinsic motivation, which are the awards, the diplomas, the bonuses, the rewards, right? The promotions. It's not about that, because those are short-lived. And what happens, that's when other people are judging you. And when other people are judging you, I don't know about you, but I don't find that very sustainable for the long run. But when it comes from within, there's a fire in the belly. Oh, yeah. That's going to stay. And in fact, when I had my students and they were getting a little burnt out and they said, "Oh, I don't know if this is for me," I would actually pull out their essay from their application. And I would say to them, I'd say, "Look, review why you wanted to be a physician scientist. What is your why? What is your core?" And they would read it and be reminded, because we all have our why. We all have our story of why we do things. We need to tap into that, because when you're able to tap into that, problems don't seem so bad. You're not going to stop. So for example, if someone in your family, most people know somebody who suffered from cancer, whichever type of cancer it is. Most people know at least one person, and you know how devastating that is, not just to the person, but to the entire family. Now, imagine you were good in science and you enjoyed it, and you want to make sure that nobody ever has to suffer from cancer the way that person in your family suffered. This is what you are dedicating your life to. That is your intrinsic motivation. Now, what happens if your experiments don't work, your paper doesn't get published, you don't get the grant? Are you going to quit? No, because of element number 2, which is the work ethic, perseverance, resilience, all of that. That intrinsic motivation fuels the work ethic. You are not going to quit trying to find a treatment for cancer just because your experiment didn't work, because you remember your why. You don't want anyone else to suffer. You are going to just find another solution. And high achievers never question if they will overcome a challenge. They know that they will. Instead, they focus on how. What is the strategy I haven't thought of yet? They don't question if they'll get to the other side, if they'll overcome it. They know they're going to get over it, under it, through it, around it. They'll get through to the other side. They focus on how. It's not if, it's how. What is the strategy I haven't thought of yet? That's number 2. Now, the third one is a strong motivation, which is constantly reinforced. Anyone here a basketball fan? Watching the NBA? Anyone here? So I'm thinking every time I do this, we have a lot of basketball fans. And you know that some of the legends like Kobe Bryant, who I did not interview, but he was known for going to the gym before sunrise and practicing his layups and practicing his drills. And it was the same drills and the same layups you would see any 12-year-old doing in the school gym. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. Neil Katyal, who you referenced, Neil Katyal argued 45 cases before the Supreme Court of the United States. 45, more than any other American minority lawyer. Most lawyers don't do one. He's done 45.
Wow.
And I asked him, I said, "Neil, how do you prepare for your cases?" And he said, "I do 3 things. First, I prepare a binder. The binder has questions it has the answers to every question I might get asked. And he takes that binder with him to court, to the Supreme Court of the United States, and puts it in front of him on his desk. And he told me in 45 cases, he's never once opened that binder. But preparing it has prepared him for the case. The second thing he does is he has moot courts. Moot courts are simulated courts. The simulated courts, he said he did 15 of them early on in his career. Now he does about 5 before every case. The point is he still does them even after arguing 45 cases. He is still doing them. And the third thing he does is the night before the opening arguments, he goes into his children's bedroom, and their bedtime story is actually the opening arguments of the case. Because he said if he can get children to understand it, he can get the court to understand it. He has done the same 3 things for every single one of the 45 cases. He has built a strong foundation, and he's constantly reinforcing it. He is not resting on his laurels. That's the third element.
Number 3. Wow.
Now, the fourth one, the last one, You remember I talked about the reading for 8 hours a day, 3 to 8 hours
Yes.
a day, right?
Yes.
All the billionaires read a lot. Mark Cuban, Warren Buffett, Bill
Bill
Gates,
Gates.
right? They all read a lot. It's not
Hmm.
reading that made them billionaires. It's
Oh.
being open to new knowledge, opening our minds up to
Hmm.
what we don't know. They are
Hmm.
looking to make connections that other people don't yet see. And the only
Hmm.
way that they can make these connections is by opening their minds up
The
to what else is
mind.
out there, because they say,
Hmm.
I don't know what I don't know. So
Hmm.
Mark Cuban and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they love to
Hmm.
read 3 to 8 hours a day. But for the rest of us who might not, I do. I read 70 to 100 books a year, but I don't
Yeah.
have 3 hours a day to read. It's
Hmm.
not about the reading. It's about opening your mind up to new
Opening your
knowledge.
mind. Hmm.
So, what are some of the ways? Put it in the chat if you could. What are some of the ways you can open your mind up to new knowledge? Put in the chat
Hmm.
if you have any ideas, and I'll give you some in order to kick you off. You could
Hmm.
definitely read books, including
Hmm.
mine, The Success Factor, right? You'll learn something new.
I
You
know.
can read articles.
Hmm.
You can watch webinars, LinkedIn Lives, right?
Podcast and all that. Hmm.
Podcasts, TED Talks. I have
Hmm.
LinkedIn Learning courses that people are learning something new on. You can also talk to people. By talking to
Hmm.
people, you learn new things as well.
No things.
And
Hmm.
in fact, all of the extreme high achievers, they talk to people a lot because they surrounded themselves, not just
Hmm.
one, a team of
Team
mentors who
mentors. Hmm.
believed in them more than they believed in themselves. And these are
Hmm.
people at the top of their game. And here they have people who are pushing them to try to achieve even more and believing in them that they can do it. Those are the
Wow.
four.
Wow. This is hot. Okay, let us let us see some comments from people. I want us to wow, a lot of comments coming in. So let's start. I'll first of all pick uh,
I see one here by
uh,
Obafemi.
Obafemi. Yes,
Obafemi,
I'm trying to
yeah,
project it. Yes,
asking if
yes,
intrinsic motivation is
yes,
teachable. Yes.
yes. Well, we
So,
have it.
Obafemi, thank you for that question. In fact, I'm an adult educator, so I can't just write a book without with telling people what the elements are of success without teaching people how to implement it in their own lives. What kind of an adult educator would I be? So
Hmm,
the book is actually broken up in thirds. The first third is making the case, the business case of why we need more high achievers. The
hmm,
middle part of the book, the second third, is about the four elements of success. And the last third of the book is actually teaching you how to apply these lessons in your own lives.
life.
Now, Obafemi, what works for you may not work for me. And what works for me today is not going to work for me the next time I have a transition in my life, a new job, a new partner, a move, a pandemic. So, what I created in the book is actually for each element of success, there is a buffet of options that you can choose from. So, do I teach people how they can tap into their intrinsic motivation? Absolutely. And I teach you
Awesome.
multiple ways that you can do it. One of those ways is the passion audit. In fact, in the book, I this is a book that is also a workbook because the book has online resources which you can download. So there is a passion audit to figure out what it is that you are so passionate about. There is
Hmm.
a goal audit to figure out what your goals are. There is a mentoring team worksheet to teach you how to develop your own mentoring team. So when I tell you I actually teach you how to implement the four elements of success, absolutely.
Awesome. We'll come back. We'll come back to that, Dr. Gotian. I heard something, and I will I will ask a question around it. I heard something around passion audit, goal audit,
Yeah.
and all that. Let's see another question. If there's okay, Elaine, there's a question also. Does success require us to take big chances? Facing that question today on a big gamble.
Oh, Elaine, I love that. In fact, on all the stops of the book tour, I put a quote. When I don't just sign my name, I put a quote, and it's a quote that came in over and over again. And it's what I realized with the extreme high achievers is that they fear not trying more than they fear failing. And that's the quote I always put in the book for people when I sign the books. Fear not trying more than you fear failing. People are taking strategic risks. The high achievers take strategic risks and they create a safety net around them and they figure out quickly what's the worst that'll happen. Too many people are afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And too many people
Absolutely.
are afraid of success. But the high achievers fear not trying more than they fear failing. And as I said, when they try things, these are strategic risks. They're not going to lose their home over this, right? But this is something that will really help them in the future.
Awesome. Awesome. I think someone, Olumide is asking a question. I mean, I will come back now. He's asking, success comes to those who think ahead and beyond the ordinary. But my question is, could it be learned as a skill? Yes, I think we've actually answered that.
Yes. And
Yes.
one thing's the high achievers, they cannot stand the status quo. You know that we have a phrase here. It's popular in the United States, and I really hope it's not popular anywhere else because it's my most hated sentence in the English language, which is, we've always done it that way. I cannot stand that. I cannot stand we've always done it that way because every time someone tells me that, I say to them, BlackBerry, Blockbuster, right?
Okay.
All the Kodak, all the people that say we've always done it that way and refuse to think ahead. Those are the people who went out of business. Those are the people who became irrelevant. But if you can always stay on top of things and learn new things and try to make connections. And people ask me, well, how do you do that? I always say, put yourself around interesting people and try to be the least interesting person in the room. And those rooms can be virtual as well, such as this LinkedIn Live, right? We are learning not just from the two of us, but we're also learning about the people who are commenting in the chat. I'm learning from them as well. They're learning from each other.
Wow. I mean, I have here also to ask that question, but I think you've answered the question. So one thing I always ask is around, because of the time that we're in right now. In fact, the idea of this LinkedIn Learning or LinkedIn Live was given birth to during the pandemic. I mean,
a lot of people.
I wanted to look for something to do. I was going through a lot of challenging time with my family. I just wanted to do something new. That was what gave birth to this idea. And I try as much as possible to ask questions that can help people in one way to ease out the problem they're going through, most especially as a result of the pandemic. And I would like to ask this question. So the pandemic actually was a life and death experience for most people all over the world, and a lot of people are still reeling from that impact right now.
Yeah.
So what approach would you suggest to people to take to access success? I know some of these things are important, but what approach would you recommend maybe for someone going through a lot of challenging time as a result of the pandemic and now is so obsessed with success? What would you suggest?
Yeah, and this, I think the pandemic was a enlightening time for many people to really reevaluate what's important to us and what's not. And
Mm,
one of the things that I have quickly realized with the high achievers, because they face the same challenges they were going through the
mm,
pandemic. I mean, imagine training for the Olympics and then it
mm,
gets postponed for a year after you've trained your whole life for it.
mm,
It's interesting that none of them quit. They all continued training for an extra year. And what I quickly realized, because I interviewed several of the Olympians who were in training, they
mm,
said, I can't control the pandemic. I cannot control the lockdown. I cannot control that I can't go to the gym, but I
mm.
am going to control what I can control.
Control. Mm,
Control what you can control and don't worry about the things you cannot control.
mm,
And that's what they did. And that's how they continued to train for the Olympics, by controlling what
mm,
they can control. So they did workouts
mm,
at home. They did workouts on Zoom with their trainer in the
mm,
park. They found other
mm,
ways in
mm,
which to do it. And I think
mm.
many of the people, we all have what's called different cognitive loads, right? Some people had to
Load.
homeschool their
Mm,
children. Some people had elder care for their parents. Some people
mm,
couldn't access basic needs. We
mm.
all have different cognitive loads, and we have to realize that what works for you is not going to work for me,
Work for me.
because we're
Absolutely.
each saddled with very, very different things.
Mm,
But we can each try and control what we can control. And
mm,
you'll see that once you start doing that and not worrying about all those things that are out of your control,
mm,
that will feel like a burden is lifted off of you.
mm,
And then you can
mm,
actually get ahead, because you don't
mm,
have things weighing on you so heavily.
mm,
Then you can actually start to move forward. This
mm,
is now, and when you start moving forward, this is where inertia kicks in. And once you start, you
mm,
cannot stop.
mm, mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I said I'll come back to the idea or concept around the passion audit,
Yeah.
because I talk a lot around passion, and I've always mentioned this to people who are around me, and I don't know if it's still the same thing. So maybe we can just get to exchange ideas around that. I tell people that passion is not what you love, or maybe not only what you love, because typically when you ask people that, oh, what are you passionate about, people usually think it's what they love.
Yeah.
But what you love, and plus what you are ready to sacrifice, maybe die for something. I
Yeah.
don't know what's the passion audit. How do you conduct one? I mean, from the
So,
from the idea around your book.
yeah, so the passion audit is really to try to figure out what it is that you love to do. Because if we can
Mm,
tap into that, you actually only need to spend 20% of your time doing what you love in order for the other
mm,
parts of your job not to deplete you so much. So it's
mm,
important that we figure out and tap into what that is. And it's really a simple 3-column exercise. I told you I'm an adult educator. I'm here to bridge theory and practice. I am not here to weigh you down and make things
mm,
complex. So
mm,
all those words I actually turned into a 3-column exercise, which
mm,
helps you figure out what it is you're good at, what it
mm,
is you are not good at, what
mm,
it is you're good at but you do not enjoy doing. You would
mm,
give it up for free if you could. And what would
mm,
you do for free? What would
mm,
you do for free? How are you spending your free time? So there's really some guiding questions to help you distill that information and really get you to tap into a part of your brain you might not have tickled in a while, in
mm,
order to really figure out what it is that you love to do. And I want to tell you about a colleague of mine. Just yesterday, she walks into my office and she's nearly bouncing off the chair, because
mm.
I have been talking about this for a long, long time,
Time.
and she was trying to find a niche for herself within her work. She's really
Mm,
good at her job, but all of
mm,
a sudden she's bouncing out of her chair. She found it. She
mm.
found what it is that she wants to study, what she
She's want
wants
to,
to
wow.
do, what she wants to talk about, what she wants to write about, what she wants to look
Hmm.
into. And you could just see it. It was just addicting, her excitement. I was so excited for her. And you can tell when someone is really passionate about something and you're talking to
About
them,
something.
you
Hmm.
can tell their whole face
Hmm.
lights up. The stress
Hmm.
just melts away. You know when someone loves what they're doing. You can
Hmm.
tell immediately by talking to them. We need
Hmm.
to find that in each person.
Hmm. 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 Same for goal audit as well.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, that's fine. So let's Soji Hayes, Olusoji Adesanya is asking, can you throw more light on habit and success?
Yeah. Too often people are trying to copy other people's habits, right? They'll say, it worked for you, it'll work for me. No, it
Hmm.
won't, because we're
Hmm.
different people and we have
Hmm.
different strains on our lives and we have different, what we call different cognitive loads on our life.
Hmm.
So it's not
Hmm.
going to be the same. It's not going to work the same.
Hmm.
So what happens is we cannot copy other people's habits because what worked for you
Hmm.
will not work for me. But
Work
we
for me.
can emulate other people's mindsets. What can I learn from you waking up at 5 a.m.? It's not waking up at 5 a.m. that made you successful.
Hmm.
It's figuring out your peak performance hours
Hmm.
and then leveraging that time to do deep cognitive work and not waste that time doing passive work like emails and Zooms.
Hmm.
So you have to figure that out. So it's really, I didn't look at the habits. I looked at what can we learn from these habits. I
Hmm.
basically
Hmm.
took it down a lot deeper.
Hmm. 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 Wow. Wow. Uh, wow. That's powerful. Let me just ask this. Because it's something that we always ascribe to success. And
Mhm.
I know that it's hard for us to talk about success and not talk about the science of success in a way. Where is the place of genius in success?
I have these conversations with people all the time, and I think success is a relative term. I think a genius is a relative term. It's really interesting. I had multiple book launch events, but
Hmm.
there was one event that was a private event just for the people who were in the book and those who endorsed the book.
Hmm.
Now, I know all of them, but they don't all know each other.
Oh, okay.
So one of the astronauts texted me and he said, "Oh, will Dr. Fauci be at the book launch event?" And I said, "No, he's kind of busy. We've got a pandemic going on."
Hmm.
And I said, "Oh, but this Nobel Prize winner will be there." And he said, "A Nobel Prize winner. Now that's a real high achiever." And I'm thinking to myself, "You're an astronaut. You've been to
Yeah,
space. They
yeah,
don't take any person off the street to be an astronaut."
exactly.
But then I realized that in his environment, everyone's an astronaut. That's
Oh,
average. That's
oh,
average to him because everyone who he knows is
oh,
an astronaut.
oh,
It's not as special as it would
oh.
be for the rest of us who don't usually have dinner with other astronauts.
Usually, oh, oh,
So it's
oh.
what is your environment? Everything is really relative, right? The
Hmm,
same thing with the Olympians. They know a bunch of other Olympians. Most people
hmm.
don't even know one, right?
I've never met
So
one.
right. So everything is really relative.
Hmm, hmm.
Now you see why I
Everything
love what I
is,
do.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, the last one, maybe the last question, because in a way, I also provide some sort of mentoring to people. But one thing I probably would ask is that how do you think an average person can go about looking for a mentor?
Oh, I write a lot about that in the book.
Yes.
So you need to figure out what it is that you have a gap in knowledge,
Hmm.
and try and see how you can fill that gap. And there's actually a worksheet in the book, How to Develop Your Own Mentoring Team. And there are scripts how to actually approach potential mentors. Because I
Mentors.
don't want you to ever ask someone to be your mentor,
Hmm.
because that's asking them to take on another job. and everyone's too
Hmm.
busy. So I actually
Hmm.
give you other words to use instead. Now, the
Of
thing
a
is, there's
mentor.
actually 3 levels of mentors. And I talk about that in the book in the Success Factor. There's people who are senior to you, who have the knowledge and expertise. There are people at your level, your peers, who have the empathy, and remember, peers rise together. And there are also people who are junior to you that can teach you so much. All of these, especially the digital natives, they can
Hmm.
teach you these new ways of communicating. They are looking at things from a very different angle. So you really want people at different levels. And where can you find them? Oh, so many places. I found
Hmm.
mentors in the airport. I found mentors
Hmm.
online, the bathroom line at conferences. I found mentors who were
Hmm.
speakers. I found mentors who were in the chat at someone else's talk. There's
Hmm.
so many ways. There's so many ways. You just need to open yourself up to it.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Wow. This is powerful. Powerful, Dr. Ruth. Powerful. Well, let's I'm sure there are no questions again. I just quickly want to check Facebook whether we have 1 or 2 questions over there. Okay, no question there. I know a lot of people will still come and ask some questions. We can always direct some of those questions to Dr. Ruth Gotian. Wow, this is powerful. This is powerful. Wow, Dr. Ruth, thank you. I must thank you so much for honoring this invitation. I must
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you for
Fantastic
having me.
fantastic insight. Fantastic insight.
I'm excited that
Fantastic insight.
you let me geek out on my favorite topic. And I hope that people see that my face lights up when I talk about this because I think success is achievable. And I am going around the world talking about it because I really think we can leave this world better than we found it
Hmm,
if we find a way to tap into our own success and really chart a path forward.
hmm. Thank you, Dr. Ruth. Thank you for your time. Uh, thank you. Thank you. Ellen is saying also this was a great and so timely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Olumide here is saying emulating and incorporating successful mindset. Oluwakemi has also picked something. Change is a constant thing. Olusoji here. Okay, Obafemi here still. If they choose to learn, choose to tap into the etc. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I strongly believe that if individuals can deal with the fear factor first, and then success is achievable.
Yep.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Yeah, I think that's the end of the episode 16. This is episode 16 of the Performance Tools LinkedIn Live. Dr. Ruth, I know that anytime I come back uh, to seek for one form of insight or the other, I'm so sure that you answer me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.